Picture this, a classified Pentagon briefing room, 2023. High-ranking officials stare at satellite images of the South China Sea, but they're not looking at Chinese warships. They're focused on something else entirely, something that's been quietly building power for decades. One general leans forward and says the words that would change everything: "We have a Philippines problem." What could possibly make the world's most powerful military machine nervous about a chain of 7,000 islands halfway across the globe? The answer will shock you, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why America's biggest fear isn't China, Russia, or even nuclear war. It's a nation they once thought they controlled completely. But before we dive into this geopolitical thriller, there's something you need to know. The Philippines isn't just rising, it's orchestrating one of the most brilliant strategic moves in modern history. And America? They're scrambling to figure out how they missed it. Let me take you back to where this story really begins. For over a century, the Philippines existed in America's shadow. Spanish colony, American territory, Japanese occupation, then back to American influence. Washington treated Manila like a chess piece, moving it around the board whenever convenient. Military bases scattered across the islands, trade deals that favored American corporations, political leaders who danced to Washington's tune. But here's where the story takes its first unexpected turn. While America was busy fighting wars in the Middle East and obsessing over China's economic growth, something extraordinary was happening in the Philippines. The country wasn't just developing, it was quietly positioning itself to become the next global superpower. And the most brilliant part? They did it without firing a single shot. The first sign America missed was geographic. Look at a map, really look at it. The Philippines sits at the crossroads of the world's most crucial shipping lanes. We're talking about routes that carry $5.4 trillion worth of global trade every single year. Oil from the Middle East, manufactured goods from China, agricultural products from Southeast Asia, all of it passes through waters that the Philippines can now influence. But here's the kicker that keeps Pentagon strategists up at night. America used to control these waters through bases in the Philippines. Clark Air Base, Subic Bay Naval Base, massive installations that projected American power across the Pacific. Then, in 1991, something unprecedented happened. The Philippine Senate voted to kick out the Americans. No more bases, no more military presence. At the time, Washington thought it was losing a strategic asset. They had no idea they were witnessing the birth of their greatest competitor. Fast forward to today, and the Philippines has transformed those same strategic waters into their own sphere of influence. Their navy, once considered insignificant, now patrols some of the world's most important sea lanes. Their Coast Guard challenges vessels from superpowers. Their maritime boundaries have become bargaining chips in international negotiations. America went from controlling these waters to having to ask permission to pass through them. But the real genius of the Philippine strategy becomes clear when you look at the numbers. This isn't just about military positioning, it's about economic warfare conducted through pure capitalist brilliance. The Philippines has become the world's outsourcing capital, but not in the way you think. We're not talking about simple call centers anymore. If you're finding these revelations as mind-blowing as I am, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now. Trust me, what's coming next will completely change how you see global politics, and you won't want to miss a single detail. Here's what America discovered too late. Filipino workers aren't just answering phones and processing data. They're designing software for Silicon Valley startups, managing financial portfolios for Wall Street firms, creating digital content for Hollywood studios, and running customer operations for Fortune 500 companies. Every single day, millions of American businesses depend on Filipino expertise to function. Think about the implications for just a moment. America's tech sector, their entertainment industry, their financial services, all of them have Filipino fingerprints all over their operations. If the Philippines decided tomorrow to redirect their talent elsewhere, entire sectors of the American economy would grind to a halt. This isn't just outsourcing, it's economic dependency disguised as business efficiency. But the story gets even more incredible when you realize the scope of Filipino influence worldwide. We're talking about 12 million Filipinos living and working in other countries, But these aren't just immigrants looking for better opportunities. They're strategic assets placed in every major economy on Earth. In the United States alone, there are 4.2 million Filipino Americans. They're nurses keeping hospitals running, engineers designing bridges and buildings, teachers educating the next generation, and increasingly, they're moving into positions of real power. Business executives, government officials, military officers, judges. The Filipino diaspora isn't just integrated into American society, they're helping to shape it. But here's where the story takes a turn that even Hollywood couldn't write. This diaspora maintains incredibly strong ties to the Philippines. We're talking about $33 billion in remittances sent home every year. That's not just money, that's economic power flowing directly from the heart of other nations back to Manila. The Philippines has essentially created a global network of economic influence that operates completely outside traditional diplomatic channels. And it doesn't stop with money. Cultural influence is spreading like wildfire. Filipino music is dominating international charts, Filipino food is becoming mainstream in major cities worldwide, Filipino creators are setting trends on every social media platform. When America controlled global culture through Hollywood and MTV, they could shape how the world thought. Now they're watching Filipino voices do the same thing, and there's absolutely nothing they can do to stop it. The Pentagon's worst nightmare isn't Chinese missiles or Russian hackers. It's the realization that America's cultural dominance, the soft power that made them a superpower, is being challenged by a nation they thought they had tamed decades ago. But the real reason America fears the Philippines isn't economic or cultural. It's psychological. The Philippines represents something that terrifies every empire, proof that you can't keep a people down forever. This is a nation that survived Spanish colonization for 300 years, American occupation, Japanese brutality during World War II, decades of dictatorship, natural disasters that would cripple other countries, and economic challenges that would break lesser nations. Each time the world counted them out, Filipinos found a way to not just survive, but to emerge stronger. That's not luck or coincidence. That's a national character forged in the furnace of adversity. And that character is what America truly fears, because it's contagious. Other nations are watching the Philippine model and taking notes. How do you rise to power without confrontation? How do you build influence without building enemies? How do you challenge superpowers without starting wars? The Philippines is writing the playbook for 21st century power politics, and countries across Asia, Africa, and Latin America are studying every page. America's greatest fear isn't that the Philippines will become their enemy. It's that the Philippines will prove you don't need America to become great. For a nation that's built its identity on being the world's indispensable power, that's an existential threat. But here's where the story gets really interesting. The Philippines isn't rushing toward confrontation. They're playing a completely different game, one that America doesn't fully understand yet. While Washington thinks in terms of military alliances and economic sanctions, Manila thinks in terms of patient, strategic positioning. They're strengthening their military, but not to fight wars. They're building economic partnerships with everyone, including China, without picking sides. They're expanding their cultural influence without trying to dominate other cultures. They're creating a new model of what it means to be a global power in the modern world. This is what keeps American strategists awake at night. How do you compete with a country that's not trying to replace you, but simply trying to create space for itself? How do you contain a nation that's rising through cooperation rather than conquest? How do you fight an enemy that doesn't consider you an enemy? The Philippines has discovered something that America has forgotten. True power doesn't come from making others fear you, it comes from making them need you. And right now, the world needs the Philippines more than the Philippines needs America. Every major shipping route, every global supply chain, every international business operation, they all have Philippine connections. The country has made itself indispensable to the global economy without firing a shot or threatening anyone. It's the perfect strategy for the modern world, and America has no playbook for how to respond. But perhaps the most brilliant aspect of the Philippine strategy is how they've managed to avoid the trap that destroys most rising powers: hubris. They're not declaring themselves the next superpower or demanding that others bow down. They're simply building their capabilities, expanding their influence, and waiting for the world to recognize what's already obvious to those paying attention. If you've made it this far, you understand that global power is shifting in ways most people never see coming. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Here's the final piece that explains everything. America's fear of the Philippines isn't really about the Philippines at all. It's about what the Philippines represents, the end of the American century. For 80 years, America has been the world's dominant power, the nation that other countries either aligned with or opposed. The Philippines is proving there's a third option, complete independence. They're demonstrating that you can be successful without being American allies or American enemies. You can chart your own course, build your own partnerships, and create your own version of prosperity. That's a lesson resonating in every capital from New Delhi to Nairobi to Mexico City. The Philippines isn't rushing toward confrontation with America. They're playing an entirely different game, one that America doesn't fully understand yet. While Washington thinks in terms of military alliances and economic sanctions, Manila thinks in terms of patient, strategic positioning. They're building capabilities, expanding influence, and waiting for the world to recognize what's already obvious to those paying attention. What keeps American strategists awake isn't the threat of Philippine hostility, it's the promise of Philippine independence. How do you compete with a country that's not trying to replace you, but simply trying to create its own space? How do you contain a nation that's rising through cooperation rather than conquest? How do you fight someone who doesn't consider you an enemy? The Philippines has discovered something America forgot long ago. True power doesn't come from making others fear you, it comes from making them need you. Right now, the world needs the Philippines more than the Philippines needs any particular country, including America. They've made themselves indispensable to the global economy without threatening anyone, and that's perhaps the most brilliant strategy in modern geopolitics. From Congress to Wall Street to the Pentagon, one question echoes louder each day. What do we do about the Philippines? The fact that they're asking proves that the Philippines has already won. This isn't just the untold story of our time, it's the preview of what comes next. The Philippines didn't just survive the American century, they're helping to define what replaces it. And judging by America's response, what comes next looks nothing like what came before.